Bailey is our next candidate to speak. Aaliyah Bailey is running for State Representative District 64, which includes St. Peters, St. Charles City, O'Fallon, and Josephville in St. Charles County and Winfield, Moscow Mills, Chain of Rocks, and Fountain and Lakes in Lincoln County. She's running against Democrat Michael Howard in the August Democratic primary and against incumbent Tony Lavosco in the November general election. In spite of the many hardships she has faced in her life, hardships that would have stopped many people, Aaliyah persevered to earn a Bachelor of Art degree in political science that opened a lifetime of opportunity for herself, her daughter, and her mother. Aaliyah Bailey is intimately aware of the challenges residents of District 64 face, having faced many of these challenges herself. Aaliyah promises to fight in Jefferson City for the hardworking citizens in District 64 so that they can enjoy happy, quality lives. Welcome, Aaliyah.
Hello, everyone. Bailey, and I am candidate for Missouri State Representative for District 64. District 64 is in both St. Charles and Lincoln County, so it's pretty a lot going on in there. I've got some of those suburban parts of O'Fallon, and then some of the more rural parts up in Winfield, Moscow Mills area. So I'm very excited to be running. As she said, I have a daughter who is 2 or going to be 2 in September, and she's a big reason why I'm wanting to run. So for those of you who don't know, when I'm elected in November, I would be the youngest woman, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, elected into the Missouri State Representative, or the Missouri House of Representatives, and one of the youngest in general. So I'm going to turn 24 in June, just soon enough for the election. And I think that that's really important. In the last month, we've seen so much activism by young people, both high schoolers, college-age students. We have seen them put together so many rallies, marches, really bringing the community together in a safe way to make their points for the Black Lives Matter movement, in support of all Black lives, including those in the LGBT plus community. And I think that it's really important that we notice that. We as young people often get a bad rap, whether it's because we don't know enough, whether it's because we don't have enough experience. And I'm here to tell you that we've been living through this just as well as everyone else. When we talk about Medicaid expansion and why that's important, growing up, my family used Medicaid. I honestly didn't understand what insurance was really until I started learning about it in school. I didn't understand how it worked because I grew up on Medicaid. And I can also tell you that those systems are very hard to navigate. When I found out I was pregnant in 2018, I struggled to apply, and I'm still 2 years later struggling with hospital bills from that. Before I was interested in running well over a year ago, I had someone suggest to me, why don't you talk to your representative? And I was like, well, I know that he didn't support Medicaid expansion to begin with, so I doubt that he would want to, help me, a young single mom. So I didn't want to go that route. I don't think that anybody should feel like they can't talk to their representative for any reason. Rural healthcare is something that's near and dear to my heart, not just politically, but professionally. I'm currently attending Maryville University. I'm pursuing my master's in healthcare administration because I believe that everyone should have access to healthcare. I'm especially interested in behavioral health. I've worked in the behavioral health field for over 4 years now, and I've seen just the difference that it makes, having access to providers and clinicians who care about you and who are willing to help you and show you, all of the things that you need to be healthy and successful. In my position currently, I provide community support for individuals. And I believe that as, we're talking about this, defund the police, or reform the criminal justice system, I believe that more healthcare and health services and social services could could help that by having more clinicians, more people who working together. Another cause that's very near and dear to my heart is domestic violence. And when we think about that, a lot of the times we think about the criminal justice aspect of that, and that's very important. We want people who are abusing others, who are going, who are harming others to go to jail, but we want to have solutions as well. We need to have, we don't want to just put people in jail and then, as Alad talked about earlier, you've got people who are just sitting there. I know in his particular example, he was talking about someone who didn't commit the crime, but what good is it doing to our society if someone's just sitting there and not being reformed? That's supposed to be the point of our system. So, we want to have, I would love to see more people be able to access services such as, where I work, which is a pretty specific service, but be able to expand that with Medicaid expansion and with, just continuing to reform those systems. So as a mom, I'm also very interested in education. Obviously, I love school. My mom thinks that I'm going to be a career student. She always tells me I'm going to be a career student because I just have one idea after another, and I love learning. And I think it's very important for our students to be able to all start off on equal footing. Whenever I just did a project in my MHA class, and we were talking about how do we get more people to come into rural areas, and we have a lot of medically underserved areas in Missouri. Not just I don't believe that my district is designated as one, but they are all across Missouri. And we're talking about, well, how do we get more people to come there to work as physicians, as psychiatrists, all of these different positions. And I was one of the only people that said, well, why should we bring other people to the area? Why don't we just educate the people who are already living there? And so they can have those jobs, that would help out economically. That would, we wouldn't have to try to convince somebody else to go there. So I think that's important as well. And, that starts as children, that starts when they're very young and goes through high school and being able to have access to universities as well. So altogether, I think that it's important to have people who have it's important to have people who have really who are involved in their community, who understand the struggles, and who are willing to work for what the district wants. My opponent, some of the notable things that he has done this last session was to pass a law that allowed brass knuckles. And I have not met anyone in my district who cared or mentioned brass knuckles. So when you have people in office, we're paying these representatives to be there to support us, to support our interests and to fight for us. I don't believe that my opponent is doing that. So I'm very excited to continue running, and I think that we all have a brighter future ahead. I'm looking forward to November. Thank you.
Okay, so you have about 3 minutes to answer questions, and you do have several. How do CAFOs affect District 64, and how will you protect Missouri's resources?
I apologize, I'm not familiar with CAFO.
Okay, then let's go on to the next question, and that's something that you're going to have to look up. What is your position on preschool and starting school for kids before 5?
I absolutely support public education for children, and so I believe that when you're looking at daycare centers, one thing that I didn't really understand until I had a child was that there was a difference between just babysitting and attending a daycare educational center. I believe that every child should have access to an educational center from birth. And I believe that and although I am still researching in ways to make it all work and to make sure everyone can afford it, I believe that, you know, education, I saw my daughter grow so much at the daycare center that she attended. However, there was only one center that I could afford in St. Charles as such a young mom who was just, you know, finishing my degree. So I believe that children should have access to education, you know, as young as, you know, 3 months whenever they start to attend, you know, if their parents choose to go back to work that early. And I think that there's a way that we can find a way to make it all work so that all parents can afford their children that opportunity.